Hey everyone, it's Brandon Lee. Welcome to another episode of Connect Your Dots Show. Hey everyone, I'm Brandon Lee and I'm so excited to be your high performance coach today with this episode. I spent the last 23 years of my life trying to be a high performer. What does that mean? I've started a few companies, I've sold several of them, and I failed at a few too. During that same time, my wife Megan and I have been married for 22 years and we're raising 5 kids. Our lives are busy, but I know you are all busy too. And I'm assuming that you're a lot like me where you still have aspirations to do a lot with your life. You want to achieve more. You want to discover ways to be more productive, more connected, more successful, more confident, more energetic, and feel better about all areas of your life. My goal, which is totally inspired by my own journey of ups and downs, is to help you and my audience be intentional, know your identity, and live with peace. I want you to feel more energized, more connected to your loved ones, and more abundant in every area of your life. And that's what we are doing today. Hey, if you like today's episode, please share it with a friend. If you want, grab a screenshot and share it on Instagram and tag me, Connect Your Dot Show, so I could thank you and give you a shout out. I'd appreciate it. All right, you ready? I'm ready. Let's start the next episode.
Hey, Connect Your Dots. It's Brandon. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome to episode 16. And we are fast tracking our way to 100 episodes. Thanks for being with us today. Hey, I have a special guest today that, I love talking with her. This is Suzanne Palazzo. She is a CEO and founder of Upper Deck Fitness. She has been on my Facebook Live with Connect Your Dots before, and she was talking then more about fitness, about mental health, and how fitness is such a big influence in that. But today, in this episode, she and I had a great conversation about work-life balance, about mindset, and about the strategies that she uses to just stay balanced and calm in the midst of being motivated, focused, and a driven CEO. See, Suzanne has 3 gyms within Upper Deck Fitness. She's the founder. She's the sole owner. She's got a lot on her plate. She's recently gotten engaged, so has added that onto her plate. And what I love, she's very innovative. In 2018, prior to COVID, she started working on creating her gym as a virtual gym so that it was easier access for their members. It was less expensive for their members. And a lot of their members who travel quite a bit could take their fitness classes with them on the road. So I love the innovation side, but really what I really want to encourage you to focus on is listen to how she talks about knowing her emotions, how she uses journaling throughout the day. And I just think that is one of the greatest, probably the greatest pieces of wisdom she gives in this episode. So I'm going to send you right into the episode. Thank you for joining today. You're going to love listening to Suzanne Palazzo with Upper Deck Fitness. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day.
Connect Your Dots, Suzanne Palazzo, who is the founder and CEO of Upper Deck Fitness. You want to say hello before I tell them how wonderful you are?
Oh, you're too kind. I need to hear this every morning when I get up. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Brandon.
You got it. Well, hey, Suzanne, more in motion more often than not, Suzanne is a leader with a philosophy that's heavily rooted in the concept of mind over matter. And as a friend of hers, I know that this is really true. She's guided by her belief that both the body and the mind were designed to progress. even if moving forward requires taking a step back to reflect. Oh my gosh, the whole like go slow to move fast model. I love it. I love it. So through a combination of movement, mindfulness, and written and spoken word, Suzanne's approach to empowerment directly addresses the barriers many of us have of self-constructed to stand in the way in our way. That was a lot. Sorry about that. She is doing really wonderful stuff. She's got a few different things that you guys are all going to need to check out. She owns Badass and Beautiful, which you can find on Twitter, and she's on Facebook and LinkedIn, and all those are going to be inside the show notes. But Suzanne, welcome to Connect Your Dots.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, hey, last time you were with me, we talked a lot about mindfulness and we talked a lot about physical fitness because that is your expertise. But I threw a curveball at you and I asked you to come on and talk about being a CEO of your company. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your company? Because as soon as you do, I think everybody's going to go, oh my gosh, she's just been dealing with a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. As we all have with the pandemic. But so I am the founder and CEO of Upper Deck Fitness. We were founded in 2015. I am the sole owner of the company. We are a full service fitness facility. We have had 3 locations here in Connecticut. We're in the process of restructuring the business due to the pandemic, not because we've taken a blow, but quite frankly, our virtual platform, which we had in place in 2018. A lot of people joke with me and we're like, did you know COVID was coming? Sure, certainly not. But we saw a need to deliver high quality, effective workouts into people's homes or with them when they travel, and to really make it an interactive experience so that the accountability factor is there. So we launched that service back in 2018. So while I hate to say this, because I know the pandemic has been so trying for so many people, when COVID hit, it was really kind of like our shining moment. It allowed a virtual platform to get the exposure that it deserved, and for us to be able to go into people's homes, quite frankly, when they needed us the most. Yeah. So we're in the process of restructuring our business right now. We have a lot going on, and we haven't stopped. We have not stopped since the day we closed our doors, which here in Connecticut was March 16th.
Oh my gosh. Well, and just to let everyone know, Suzanne and I met in Dominican Republic. She was there with her fiance, Carl. And Megan and I were there celebrating our 20th anniversary, I think, back then.
Absolutely.
And we were all sitting around the pool together. We started talking. We were talking about business. And here we are. We've been on lots of Zooms over the last few years. But I know when we met you, you shared with me then that you were moving your fitness business virtual. And I was intrigued then. So let's just go back pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
What prompted that? Like, what did you see? What did you know? What did you think that was a pretty big risk back in 2018, I would imagine.
It was, including the way we run our virtual platform. So it's not simply a live stream service. You've actually taken some classes with us, so you know. Yeah. We have 2 coaches on every call, which means that somebody is actually leading you through the workout and somebody is also able to see you and provide feedback in real time, right? So it's encouragement, it's corrections, it's motivation. But
it's more correction when it's me. It's usually Carl going, Brandon, go down more. No, stop being a wimp. Go down more. Yeah.
But, I've always said, what is the purpose or power of live fitness if somebody can't see you? It's right. Really just a modern day Jane Fonda workout if nobody is able to interact with you. But our real reason for launching the platform came, we are all about solutions at Upper Deck. I always say to everybody, if this was easy, meaning being healthy, staying in shape, everybody would be doing it, right? There's a lot of hurdles that get in the way. So everything that we focus on at Upper Deck as a business is addressing those specific hurdles. So several things that we felt the virtual platform had the potential to address were the convenience factor, right? A lot of people don't stick to a workout routine because, again, pre-pandemic, they had to drive to and from the gym. That was extra time, required in order to do that. So the concept of being able to do your workout and then walk to your kitchen and make a cup of coffee is just kind of priceless, or get in your own shower. There's also a really big intimidation factor with a lot of gyms. A lot of people aren't comfortable going into a gym, or they feel they need to already be in shape or look a certain way or have certain clothes to be able to go into a gym. So by coming into someone's house, they don't have to worry about that. They have the privacy. They don't feel like other people are judging them, because they're not. And it just allows them to get into a groove. And the last piece I'd say is the price point. It's more affordable for us to be able to provide this service virtually than when someone comes into the facility with us. And cost is usually a barrier to a point of entry for a lot of people getting involved in maintaining a fitness routine.
Yeah. So when it comes for you as a business owner and you're making decisions, as you know, you and I've talked about this, but connect your dots. It's about your personal development. It's about your family or your relationships, and it's about your business. How do you go about making decisions that are best for all three of those?
Yeah. It's a really great question. And I feel like there's a hierarchy that if you start with one, the other things fall into place. It's taken me a long time personally to kind of navigate this. Because I used to have the hierarchy upside down. So I was always focusing on the bottom line, perception, reputation, all of those kinds of things. But there was a lot of lack of fulfillment internally, and certainly an imbalance in terms of my own health and well-being, and certainly how that affected my relationships. So when I kind of turned that upside down, and started making choices that truly just simply, I don't mean to oversimplify, but felt good, right? That aligned with how I want it to feel, and my value system, all of the other pieces started to kind of fall into place.
How did you, that sounds wonderful. How did you get there? Because that whole flipping of even just saying, making a decision of doing something that made me feel good.
Yeah.
That's hard for a lot of people.
100%. To be clear, I'm a work in progress. That's one of our taglines at the gym. What I will say, the straw that broke the camel's back, it wasn't necessarily one particular incident. But after kind of feeling like I was running into a wall physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually for so long, I kind of decided I had nothing to lose by trying it a different way. Right? It feels selfish to say I'm going to do what feels good, right? What we are taught, that success requires sacrifice. And the more you're willing to sacrifice, the more successful you will likely be. That I had a professional dance career. So the dance world, that's ingrained in your head. Harder, more. So it's hard to rewire that. But when you're not getting the results you want, because as entrepreneurs, that's ultimately what we're after. And not just entrepreneurs. I say the same thing when people are trying to lose weight. If what you're doing is not working, you got to change it up.
Right. Yeah. And I think, we're all entrepreneurs. Some people are entrepreneurs of a business. Other people are just entrepreneurs of their life. And,
sure.
I did I don't know if I did a whole episode. I did a live on entrepreneur as a word. And the root word of that is making intentional actions. It's about intentional actions. And when you look at it that way, not in an English version of entrepreneurship, we all need to be entrepreneurs. It all needs to be about taking that intentional action. What's the hardest thing for you in making decisions when you know you need to make the one that makes you feel good, but there's pressure? How do you go about making those decisions?
Well, my personal biggest hurdle, has been how my decisions affect other people. Because sometimes what's best for me is not best for everybody else. And that for me is still hard to balance. It's taken a long time to be able to move forward unapologetically, and to truly be able to kind of keep your eye on the prize. Integrity is everything to me. If I could put my head on the pillow at night, and I'm not talking, to be clear, about wronging someone, but understanding that somebody might not appreciate my decision. They might be affected by it in a way that doesn't make them feel great. That is an ongoing battle for me. But again, once you start to see this concept, this mindset start to pay off, it's kind of easy. You kind of get hooked on it.
Yeah.
So it's motivation in and of itself to keep going when you see that it's producing results.
Yeah. Are you, you want to share with us something where a situation or a story where you just didn't do it right and it was a harder learning experience?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm constantly working on is my interaction with other people. So I'm very aware of, how information is presented, how I treat other people during conversation, or particularly if you're delivering a message that's tough for somebody else to hear. So that's been something in the past where I feel, in hindsight, with the power of hindsight, that I've let stress get the best of me, right? We've all had those moments where we're kind of boiling over, and that's affected my character. It's affected how I've come across potentially to members of my team or other partners. And that's something I've been working to address. Ironically or not, the secret is to not get to that boiling point, right? Like to not get to the point where you're running on fumes and you're easy to snap. So that's also where the self-care piece kind of comes in. We tend to put that on the bottom of the list. Like I'll get to that when I have time. But in my opinion, and not just because of what I do for a living, but that is just as important as, spreadsheets and balancing the books.
Right. How much emphasis or learning do you do on knowing your personality, especially as you're working with so many teammates and partners and so many things going on around you?
It's probably excessive. I'm looking here because I have my journal sitting right here next to me. And it's open because I'm constantly documenting. I would honestly say that this is probably my secret to success. I start every morning with some journaling, and to be clear, it's nothing lengthy. It's not like a Dear Diary entry. It's really just a check-in with how I'm feeling at that given moment. And then the reason it's open and ongoing is I really try to be aware of emotions as they come to the surface. So whether that, again, is I'm hitting that boiling point, or maybe it's an insecurity that even if I'm not sure where it's stemming from, I just acknowledge it, after this, got off the call with Brandon, felt awesome, right? That's an indication to me that maybe I need to do more of this type of work, right? Or conversely, if I got off and felt insecure or just, which certainly won't be
never talk to Brandon again.
Yes, exactly. Note to self, as we say.
Yeah, that's right.
But, what is it about that I'm not comfortable with, right? I think curiosity is key.
Oh, yeah. I got a big sign right here across it says, be curious.
Love it. Absolutely love it. About ourselves, yeah. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So help me understand this, because I'm not a great journaler. I'm streaky at best.
Sure.
How does that help you when you're jotting down throughout the day? I know this is your private journal, so I'm not saying like, hey, what did you write? But like, what are some types of things that you write about, and then how do you use them?
Sure. So this is actually something we work on with our clients because we do address mental health within Upper Deck Fitness. So one example of an exercise I do with my clientele is to simply jot down 3 adjectives that describe how you're feeling at that moment, right? Like first thought, best thought. No need to even necessarily explain why you're feeling that way, but simply to acknowledge it, because I believe that, mental health and professional performance, a lot of that is rooted in, really knowing where you are at a given moment. And I think we often shove stuff back down because we're not comfortable admitting, that maybe we're feeling anxious or doubtful. But the journal's a really safe place and a private place to just put it there without judgment of ourselves. I also work, because you said, I hear this all the time from clients that people are, you said spotty, right? With the journaling. And journaling's like exercise. In order for it to be most effective, you need to do it consistently. So it's a really good question of like, how do we do that? How do we find a practice that sticks? And one thing I just did this week with some of my clients to help them get into the swing was I gave them journal prompts, but I asked them to draw their answers. So I wasn't going to see it. We were doing it via virtual platform. So they doodled their responses. And interestingly, I didn't know if it was going to fall flat or what the response was going to be, but grown adults like overwhelmingly were like, this was so helpful. And I said, well, why don't we just doodle a little bit every day? Right? It's self-expression, and it seems kind of silly. But again, it's the whole concept of getting whatever is in here or in here out.
So basically, get what's in here and in here out.
Get it out, and then be curious about it, right?
And then be curious about it.
Curious about it. And growth is going to come from that in some regard. I think, too, that's been a sticking point for me, is understanding that I don't always have to measure my growth. And I know we're of the same mold in terms of metrics and goal setting. And like, I typically thrive in that environment. But sometimes the most important growth is not measurable in the typical sense of numbers, right?
Right.
So kind of letting that expectation go and just allowing things to organically happen.
Yeah. You may not have seen this. I think my post yesterday was inch by inch, growth is a cinch. Yard by yard, it's freaking hard.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Yeah.
That becomes part of the problem, are the metrics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that I get asked a lot about goals, like, especially this time of year. I mean, we're recording this on January 13th, and New Year's resolutions and setting goals. And I'm all for goals, but I think goals get way too much press, if you will.
Totally agree.
I like to balance the what is a growth orientation versus a goal orientation. And there are certain things where goals and using SMART goals, for those that know about it, it makes sense because it's specific and realistic and all those things. And there's a metric to be had, right? There's a data point that says yes or no, I reached the goal. Like, we need to close 10 deals in a week. If you're going to reach it or not.
Sure.
But growth orientation, it's really ambiguous. And some days just pushing something along a half an inch is growth. And other days it might be moving it a yard. But when we feel like that, we've got to do a yard every day, it's so much pressure, and it's actually just counterproductive.
You just brought up something that I think is so interesting about the concept of metrics and tangible metrics and, closing those 10 deals. I think what's lost there is the power of self-assessment, right? Like when we're always looking outside for some sort of validation or signal that we have done good, we are not honing the muscle. And that's where the journaling is really important to me, right?
Yeah.
To be able to tap into that. I talk about this a lot in terms of the fitness world. Wearable tech is really, really important right now. Not important, it's popular, because I actually don't agree with it. But I have clients who wear multiple devices on them to tell them if they're working hard enough, right? It's like, are you breathing heavy? Are you sweating? Like how come we can't touch base with ourselves to determine that? And we need numbers on all these devices to indicate that for us.
Yeah. Wow. That says a lot about us and how we judge ourselves, doesn't it?
100%. And again, that outside metrics mean more than how we actually think about ourselves, right? Or somebody else's opinion or likes on social media, right? That's a big problem right now. How many people subconsciously judge their value based off of interaction on other platforms. When again, if we go back to that question of how do you feel today? Do you feel like $1 million? Then, ultimately that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Megan and I talk with our kids a lot about this concept of, we tend to judge our true self, like our inner voice self, with other people's projected self.
Yes.
And we're always going to lose because it's that what they project about themselves. And that's more relevant now. I mean, we started teaching our kids this when they were really young, and it's even more relevant now than ever with social media, because people try to control, their brand by only saying wonderful things. Yeah.
You just reminded me of a quote, Brandon, to share real quick, that I heard literally last week. It was, don't judge your insides by someone else's outsides. And it makes really all the sense in the world, right? But that's what we do.
Yeah, that's constantly what we do. Well, how do you then assess as a business owner, and you're engaged too?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And how do you grow your business and keep an eye on the industry and competitors and do all that and still stay sane?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's probably up for debate whether I'm sane or not at the moment. One thing I'll say I don't do, and I have to be honest, again, it's another secret to success. I pay very little attention to my competition. I'm definitely aware of what's going on in my industry and what the trends are indicating. But in terms of monitoring competitors, I find that that's a slippery slope. Again, kind of that compare contrast that could be unhealthy, and that you start making decisions based off of what they're doing. My clients tell me everything I need to know about what I need to do. And I don't mean that they verbally give me feedback, although they do. But, for example, and we saw this in the pandemic, that there was a time where while we were having really strong attendance in our classes, it started to dip. And it was a red flag. And, I started to realize through talking with them, engaging, that it was a morale issue that had nothing to do with Upper Deck, but people were having a really hard time getting out of bed in the morning. People are still having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. Right. So we tweaked our programming, right, to address that. But one thing I'd say that I definitely depend on is the concept of compartmentalizing. Like, I'm very aware that I cannot properly address everything all at once. So when I say compartmentalizing, I mean literally like visualizing, putting things in a box. Like you referenced that I'm engaged. We're getting married about a year from now, and I'm so looking forward to it, but I'm not going to focus on that until I could thoroughly enjoy it. And that's not right now. I got too much else on the plate. So the wedding's up in a box, and it's there, and I know it's there, but I'll take it down when I'm ready to dive in, and am looking forward to doing so.
That's really cool. I think that is great advice too, and about putting things in a box and addressing them when you can. How do you address it when you feel like you got too many boxes and that need to be opened and addressed at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of constantly doing that, reprioritizing, repacking the boxes, right? And I think that's important for people to understand, that you need to check in with yourself. That's another reason, again, from the journaling, whatever was important this morning might not be important right now. Maybe something shifted there, right? So take the time to reconfigure the boxes, and delegate. Have people around you, personally and professionally, that you trust, and it's likely a much smaller army than you think it needs to be, but that you can turn to and say, hey, and be very clear about what it is you need them to do. Don't assume them to know what you need them to do, but don't hesitate to ask for help. And even if that's leaning on someone to be able to share the fact that you're feeling a little overwhelmed, there's too many boxes here, I don't know where to start. I think being candid has a lot of value.
Thank you for that. Quick, I'm going to shift gears a little bit on you. You and I have talked a lot about self-care.
Yes.
And we've talked about needing a break or taking a vacation. And honestly, neither one of us are really good at that.
No.
Yeah. How, talk to me a little bit about that need as a CEO, and when, one is how are you doing better at it? How are you failing at it? And what's going on there in these, pandemic, crazy changing times?
Sure.
Engaged, reducing your business, changing it to virtual. Like, you've got a whole lot of shit going on, and that gets crazy. I do.
And I give myself a big fat F in terms of self-care, to be honest with you. And I'm not proud of that. I would say one of the reasons I'm failing, again, because I'm curious about this, I'm in this industry, right? Everybody thinks I'm working out all the time and eating well all the time and getting all my sleep. One of the reasons I think I fall short there, of course, there's not enough hours in the day. That's a given. We all have that problem. But going back to what we said earlier about metrics, is I think my expectations, like for example, my expectation for what a workout needs to be is too high right now. And I think that's one of the things I've been working on in terms of self-care in general, and particularly rest, that it can come in really small pockets. You know, like we joked earlier about how I need a vacation. When the heck is that going to happen? Well, it's not right now. It's not in the cards, but that doesn't mean that I can't take 20 minutes to sit and read and just kind of have a moment, right? We tend to think that that's not going to do anything, but it does a lot, particularly if we kind of pepper it in throughout the day. So that's been something I've been working on, and managing my expectations, because again, for me, I want to knock the workout out of the park, right? I want it to be this awesome thing when I would actually benefit right now from going like for a walk outside for 10 minutes, you know? And I've got time for that. I definitely do.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, so I'm in my home office today, and right out here is where my fire pit is, my Adirondack chairs. Okay. And I was doing some work, and I looked, and was like, oh my gosh, we have sun. And I grabbed my jacket, I ran out there, and I got 8 minutes. That was all I had. I had 8 minutes of actually just sitting there and enjoying the sun.
That's
honestly, you know, and it was, I was actually, you know, if I could say this, I was so proud of myself that I actually just took the time. Like, I know I got this other stuff to get done. I got a really busy day, but I am going to go enjoy it, because I've been freezing my butt off. But I just enjoyed that little bit of vitamin D. I enjoyed a little bit of fresh air. I didn't take my phone.
Yes, what a concept.
Those little victories right now, with everything that's going on in the news and the pandemic, uncertainty and everything else, I've actually enjoyed those little wins more than ever before.
Absolutely. And they have a ripple effect, right? I'm sure whenever you came back inside, that sunshine, so to speak, stuck with you for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It did. And then, you know, I had a call, and then I had a call with you, and you are always sunshine in my life. I know that sounds cheesy, but you and I have great conversations. I always love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, Suzanne, what's the advice you'd have for anybody as we're moving into 2021 and just the uncertainty, as a CEO, as in an engaged relationship? So that's obviously a huge priority for you, and somebody who really values taking care of herself. You know, what tips, advice do you have? What words of encouragement do you have for people that are just feeling very overwhelmed at the moment?
And who isn't, right? I think that's important to note, because I think at least what we hear from our clientele is people think it's just them. Because again, from the outside looking in, other people seem to be handling this situation better. I don't know anyone right now who is finding this to be enjoyable. So I think that's important to remember. And to that end, to treat yourself with some kindness and grace. From where I stand, the uncertainty is not going anywhere for quite some time. And instead of trying to resist that and kind of stomping your feet about how we wish it was differently, embracing it and creating little pockets of, you know, predictability where you can. So if that is getting up in the morning and going for a walk every day, again, maybe only 10 minutes, but if that is something nobody can take from you, that's priceless. And, you know, little bits like that, it'll start to ultimately make you feel like you're a little bit more in control, not from a neurotic, obsessive kind of way, but kind of like, okay, all that's swirling around over there, but I've got this. And I think that's really important. Lord, this situation has been the longevity of it, right? I was just talking about this with someone when we left our gyms on March 16th, the day we were mandated to close. And here in Connecticut, you know, the restrictions remain quite tight. We're mandated to be operating at 25% of our capacity, you know, and in a month and a half, that's going to be for a year. You know, right. If anyone had ever told us when we walked out the doors that we weren't coming back for a year, I probably would have folded up shop, to be honest with you, you know? So sometimes not knowing is a blessing, yeah. You know, and that's what I'm saying about just kind of letting the need to control the situation go and focus on controlling what you can.
Yeah, that's really good. I think controlling what you can is huge, but I think something you said there is so important and doesn't get said a lot is sometimes the unknowing is the blessing.
Yeah.
And so often we feel like we need to have control. We need to know, we need to figure things out. And, Yeah, I agree. There's so many things I look back in my life. As soon as you said it, I was flashing through things like, if I knew how long that was going to take,
Sure.
I would have quit before it even started.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, Suzanne, I am always grateful to have a conversation with you. I'm especially grateful today that you let me record it and share it with the Connect Your Dots community. And I want to just give you the opportunity to share a little bit about Upper Deck Fitness, where people can find you. For everybody, I'll make sure that it's in the show notes.
Sure.
When I post this onto Facebook, it'll be in the comments, so everybody will be able to find your links. But tell us about Upper Deck Fitness, where they could find you, and tell us about Badass and Beautiful, because I think that is such a I love listening when I read it and I see kind of your stream of consciousness. I always learn something from you there. So yeah, please tell us about all that.
Yeah. So upperdeckfitness.com is where you can find us on the web. We are a full service now virtual gym. So you can find everything you need to know there. There's no special equipment that you need or anything else to participate with us. We have over 30 live two-way video classes a week. So again, someone's going to be keeping their eyes on you, and your first workout's always on us. So I highly recommend checking it out. By the time this is launching, we will also have an app. So if you go to Google Play or the App Store and search Upper Deck Fitness, you will get to learn about us that way. And the app is also focused on behavior modification. So you're going to get some cool. It's really awesome. This was another investment and shift we made in the midst of the pandemic to increase our virtual presence. But you'll get little note to self reminders, motivation, keep your head in the game throughout the day, that kind of ping on your phone. So it's fun. Badass and Beautiful, definitely my passion project. So that is my blog, badassandbeautiful.com. You can find me there as well on Facebook and Instagram. So that is not fitness based, but it's mindset based. A lot of what we talked about here today. I'm sure it's obvious. I like to talk. I like to speak. I like the written word. So it's more about getting ourselves out of our comfort zone in terms of self-discovery. So it's just kind of food for thought. So I'd love for anybody to check it out, and always appreciate the follows. It's always humbling to know that people are paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will just concur with that and say, everybody, if you take a look in the show notes, take a look in the comments. She's definitely somebody worth following. I've learned a lot from her. I learned a lot with her. And Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us on Connect Your Dots.
Absolutely.